The smell of hot oil and salt hung in the air when her voice almost disappeared beneath the noise of the fast food restaurant. A fragile question shaped by hunger and pride, a question that would quietly change two lives forever. She stood there, clutching her son's small hand, eyes fixed on a red carton of fries that was never meant for them, unaware that the man sitting at the table before her owned more money than she could earn in several lifetimes, and that he too was starving for something no amount of wealth had ever given him. Before the story unfolds further, take a moment to pause. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that small moments can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. She had not planned to ask anyone for anything that day. The morning had already taken everything she had left. The eviction notice folded inside her worn handbag felt heavier than bricks, and her phone, silent for weeks, was proof that no help was coming. Her name was Clara, and just 3 years earlier, she had been a woman with dreams, a steady job at a local bookstore, and a laugh that came easily. Then life began peeling things away, one layer at a time. First came the accident that took her husband on a rain-soaked highway. Then came the hospital bills, the grief that stole her sleep, and the slow suffocation of single motherhood. She worked wherever she could, cleaning offices at night, stocking shelves before dawn, but it was never enough. That day, she had only enough change to buy a small juice box for her 6-year-old son, Noah, who had learned too early how to pretend he wasn't hungry. The restaurant was meant to be a place to sit for a few minutes, to let Noah rest his tired legs after hours of walking to job interviews that went nowhere. She had told him they would eat later, using the same gentle lie she'd used too many times before. But when Noah's eyes locked onto a tray of fries at a nearby table, his small body leaned forward without permission. His stomach betrayed him with a soft growl, and Clara felt the familiar burn of shame rise in her chest. She followed his gaze and saw the man sitting alone, untouched fries cooling beside a pristine burger. He looked ordinary at first glance, dark coat, neat hair, a face marked by focus rather than warmth. What she could not see was that the watch on his wrist cost more than her monthly rent once had, or that his name appeared on business magazines under headlines about ruthless success. Ethan Cross had built an empire before turning 40. He had mastered the art of control over markets, over people, over outcomes. What he had never mastered was silence, the kind that followed him everywhere. His days were filled with meetings, numbers, and power plays, but his nights were empty hotel rooms and penthouse apartments, echoing with thoughts he refused to examine. He ate alone often, not because he lacked company, but because he trusted no one. To him, people wanted something, always. Loyalty had a price, affection came with conditions, and kindness was usually a transaction disguised as virtue. As he stared at his fries, he wasn't hungry. He was tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. Clara hesitated longer than she should have. Her heart pounded as she stepped closer, every instinct screaming to turn back. But Noah's hand tightened around hers, and desperation tipped the balance. She lowered herself slightly, keeping her voice calm, her posture respectful, her dignity intact despite the crack running through it. She asked for something she never thought she would ask for in her life. Not money, not sympathy, just the chance to share what someone else clearly didn't need. In that moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Ethan looked up, irritation ready on his tongue, then froze. What he saw wasn't a beggar. It was a mother fighting to stay upright, eyes tired but steady, clothes clean but worn thin by time and effort. The boy beside her had the kind of solemn expression children wore when they learned too soon how fragile security could be. Something tightened in Ethan's chest, an unfamiliar pressure that made him set his phone down. He thought of his own childhood, of nights spent alone in a large house after his parents' bitter divorce, of meals eaten with nannies who came and went. He remembered abundance without warmth, food without comfort. Without fully understanding why, he pushed the tray forward. Clara's relief was quiet, almost painful. She thanked him with her eyes more than her words. Guiding Noah to the seat beside her, she made sure her son ate first, tearing fries in half so it looked like she was eating too. Ethan watched in silence, his carefully constructed armor cracking as he noticed how she counted each fry, how she smiled at her son as if this were a feast. The world around them blurred, the noise, the people, the rush, until the table felt like its own small universe. Minutes passed, heavy with unspoken things. Ethan found himself asking questions he rarely asked anyone, about her day, about her son's favorite school subject, about nothing that mattered on paper but everything that mattered in life. Clara answered cautiously at first, then more freely, her voice soft but honest. She spoke of trying, of failing, of getting up again because a little boy needed her to. She never asked for more. That was what struck him most. When the fries were gone, Ethan stood abruptly, as if afraid of what he was feeling. He left, or so Clara thought. Her shoulders slumped, and the familiar weight returned. She prepared herself for the walk to the shelter she avoided whenever possible, rehearsing another night of telling Noah stories to distract him from hunger. But then a manager approached their table, holding a receipt and a bag filled with food. Not scraps, not leftovers, but full. Meals, warm and plentiful. The manager explained that the gentleman had taken care of it and more. Clara's hands shook as she accepted the bag, tears threatening to spill in a public place she had sworn would never see her cry. What Clara didn't know was that Ethan hadn't gone far. He sat in his car across the street, watching through the window as the boy laughed, his mouth full, his eyes bright. Something inside Ethan broke open. He thought of all the numbers he'd chased, all the deals that had left others smaller so he could feel bigger. For the first time, he wondered what his wealth was for if it couldn't fix this moment completely. He didn't want to be the man who shared fries once and walked away feeling generous. He wanted to be better than that. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed again, not by accident. Ethan used his resources quietly, connecting Clara to a community program, arranging interviews without revealing his identity, ensuring she had childcare during shifts. He kept his distance, afraid to contaminate the purity of what he was doing with his presence. Clara sensed an invisible hand lifting obstacles she had grown used to climbing, and gratitude filled her with cautious hope. Months later, Clara stood behind the counter of a small cafe, an apron around her waist, confidence slowly returning to her posture. Noah was in school, his laughter louder, his dreams bigger. Life was still hard, but it was moving forward. One afternoon, the bell above the cafe door chimed and Ethan walked in, not as a savior, not as a billionaire, but as a man who had learned something essential. Their eyes met, recognition blooming into something deeper than gratitude. They didn't need to explain the past. It lived between them in quiet understanding. Before this story ends, I have a special request for you. Please comment the word kindness below if you believe small acts can change big lives. Years later, Ethan would say that his fortune began the day a mother asked for fries for her son. And Clara would say that hope returned not because of money, but because someone saw her struggle and chose compassion without conditions. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that humanity still matters in a hurried world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement tells us these stories matter, and that kindness, even shared over a few fries, can ripple forever.